right. Live. Wholesale Thursday from Miami.
Yeah. Speak for yourself.
Yeah. So, wait for a few people to join in.
Drinking a coffee right now?
No, it's water.
I was gonna say.
No, I can't drink it. It's 7:00 at night.
I
I'll be
got
up all.
my 6:30 Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how you drink coffee that late. It's like I'd be up all night. I tell you that all the time.
I had a 2.5 hour meeting with a brand today. That was supposed to be probably an hour, and I didn't have anything scheduled after. I just had more calls, but it just kept going and going and going, and it went well. But it's like one of those things where you get that intuitive feeling for just like you have to. I mean, it's like you kind of limit yourself on the first call sometimes, like the first serious call where you don't mention exclusivity, you don't mention all these other things, but it just kept pushing and pushing in that right direction. So I just kept rolling with it, and they kept asking more questions, and it went well. So,
yep, exactly. That's the thing. It's like those 2-hour calls, 2.5-hour calls just eat up so much freaking bandwidth.
Yeah, I know. I managed to make some after that
call. It's like you're shot.
Yeah, it was at like, what was it, 1:30? No, it was supposed to be 1 o'clock, and then they forgot to get on the call, so I had to call their office and remind them, and then it wound up going to like 3 o'clock or 3:30 or something like that. So
yeah, it's P Doubles in the chat, so shout out P Double.
Yeah, let me.
How you doing, brother?
Yeah. Pull up Instagram here just so I can see the questions. I know sometimes we don't get that sort of. For some reason, we don't get that on. Actually, I don't even know if we're live on Instagram right now.
No, we should be live.
Are we?
We should be live. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we are. Yeah, we're good.
So anybody watching this back on YouTube or joining late, every Wednesday at 7:00 Eastern, we go live for Amazon Q&A. We do sourcing through Smart Scout. So as you all know, we focus on small to medium-sized brands. We look to build a relationship with those brands in order for it to ultimately manifest itself into an exclusive agreement, or a brand direct agreement where we can sell their products on Amazon. So we walk you through essentially, questions and answers. We dive into Smart Scout. So if you guys have any questions, if you're watching it back, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat. And if you are watching on YouTube, just go ahead and hit that like button. Really helps out the channel, helps us keep making more content. So I could go ahead and dive into a screen share here.
Yeah.
Just a moment. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah. So every time we use Smart Scout for sourcing, we're going straight to the brand tab, and we're setting a very basic filter criteria. So what we're doing is, essentially we're looking for that small to medium size brands, and we track that through monthly revenue. We can also track that through unit count, and sort of a good rule of thumb to understand, what qualifies as, say, a small to medium sized brand. I would say anything in the way of 1,000 units a month or less would be a small brand. I mean, would you agree with that? Like if the product is moving under 1,000 units a month, I'd consider that a small brand.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we always talk about the criteria of a small brand might not even be related to the number. It might be related to the accessibility of the owner or decision maker. So sometimes there's huge brands out there that sell a ton of units a month that are still small to mid-sized brands. But as far as a number perspective goes, yeah, definitely.
Right. Yeah. And then because a lot of people want to put a number on it, it's sort of, we talk about like the owner operations and the ability to speak with an owner. A lot of those things are like intangible. but the numbers change. So if I were to put the number on it, it would be more so a guide rather than like a hard and steadfast number. So it's like under 1,000 units a month. All right, that's probably a small brand. 1,000 to 5,000, or even I would say even 1,000 to 10,000 units a month is probably in that mid range, and then 10,000 and up, I would say, is probably a larger brand.
While you're diving into this, I'm just going to answer a question off of YouTube. Unless you have to look up some more criteria, you want to explain that a little more before I get into that?
No, jump into the question.
Yeah, so just it says you guys touched a little on criteria for storefronts that you want to start storefront stocking. I think that this is a question that we get a lot, and the way that I always like to answer it is like you have to think about your storefronts as having different categories. And what I mean by that is not categories of product, but types of products. So if you look at a storefront that is 100% Nike socks and whatever, chances are that is an online arbitrage store, or that is a retail arbitrage store, whatever it is. You can also look at storefronts that have a ton of like big Procter and Gamble, $1 billion a year products in it, and that's pretty consistent. And then you can look at the small to mid-size companies that we're talking about. And so there seems to be a theme with storefronts, because if you're running a business, obviously you have a pretty consistent theme of what you're looking for. So sourcing is the start of everything. And as we've talked about in great detail, if you're wrong on that aspect of it, everything else following it is going to be wrong. You have to be sourcing the right stores. And I think the ability to find storefronts that are consistent with your business model. If you're an OA seller, find the Nike sock store. If you are a distributor, wholesale seller, find the storefront that has all the Procter & Gamble products. If you're brand direct, find the smaller storefront, but just make sure that you're really honing in on your sourcing process. And that's something that Smart Scout allows us to do as well. In addition to storefront stocking, you can't set a filter with storefront stocking. You can do that with Smart Scout.
Yeah. And so when we set that filter, generally we're going to set it somewhere in the range of a 20,000 minimum to a 250,000 maximum monthly revenue cap. That helps us target those small to medium-sized brands. And then the only other thing we're really looking at is, having at least 2 sellers on the listing. So it's really simple, because this is just the start of our process. Like Brandon said, we're finding these products, and then we're diving deeper into the stores and into the brand score criteria to determine if that's a brand that is potentially of interest. So at this point, this will populate a category agnostic list of products, meaning we sell in all different kinds of categories. And from here, we will just sort of scroll and see if something catches the eye. We'll see, what is Amazon's in-stock rate? How many sellers are on the listing? Is it a crazy amount of sellers? Well, that's maybe something that we can explain to them, that they have a problem. The brand has an issue with their distribution, because there's no reason there should be 30, 40 sellers on the listing. If it's, maybe more of an intimate selling environment on Amazon, and there's maybe 3 to 6 to even under 10 sellers, that's something we may be able to reach out to for an account to start purchasing on a transactional basis, and ultimately work that into some sort of more of a selective or exclusive agreement. So we're looking at all these different things and making a judgment accordingly. And just, as I'm scrolling through here, just let me know if you see anything that catches your eye.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things we stay away from, like textbooks, things like that. We obviously don't want to sell in that category. Made me laugh when you said we tell them that they have a problem. You're like, it's not me, it's you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which, I mean, flipping the script, is like, that's something that's hard to do. I mean, when you're inundated as a brand with a lot of Amazon sellers, that's something we talk about, is like, if you can do the bare minimum, you're ahead of 90% of sellers to begin with. So, I mean, flipping the script on it from being, I'm the problem, to no, your brand has a problem and we're going to help solve it is huge.
Yeah, exactly. I want to actually just point this particular brand out, because I think this would actually be cool to do, because this is an actual example of a brand that I reached out to. I just so happened on the first page to stumble on it, in our brand sourcing. So again, like this is our process. This is what we're doing. For anybody thinking, maybe we're holding back things, like we're not. This is exactly what we do in terms of sourcing. It's how we do it, and it works. It works because we're closing brand direct accounts left and right. So like with this particular brand, right? Amazon sells a couple other items, but let's see here if I can actually pull up a couple listings. Does Amazon sell this one? I think their price might have been higher. See, like they have 27 sellers, and Amazon's priced higher, whatever. It's definitely a very good selling product, 3-digit rank. So I had a conversation with this particular brand, and they were just they were unwilling to receive any sort of feedback, right? It was like one of those. How many times have you had those conversations where it's like all the pieces are there, like they have a complete mess, and they just can't, like they just won't listen. They won't even pay any attention just because the word Amazon is in your inquiry.
Yeah, it's a timing thing sometimes too. I mean, the pain threshold for them of dealing with the problems that they're dealing with has to exceed their willingness to not want to work with you, right? So, I mean, the more time goes on, the more problems that it causes. And sometimes you can almost, I made a tweet a couple of weeks ago or whatever it was regarding like AirPods, right? No one felt the need for AirPods until Apple got rid of the headphone jack. Apple pointed out to you that you needed AirPods, right? So same logic, like we're coming in armed with information where this brand might not know that the fact that they don't have 9 images on the listing is contributing them not making as many sales as they could. They might not know that their listing isn't optimized, that what that contributes and affects their brick and mortar stores. They might not know. So not bringing problems forward that don't exist, but just pointing out problems to them kind of can help them to care a little bit more. But at the end of the day, I mean, if the brand doesn't care, sometimes it's just about your timing's not right. They're not in enough pain yet.
Right. Or they just simply, they just are so clueless that the best way for them to deal with the problem is to completely ignore it or shut it out. It's like the avoidance technique. If you just don't pay any attention to it, somehow it's going to go away. But even though it's actually going to manifest itself.
That's not what you do with all your problems, though. That's what I would do. Really. It'll be fine.
Yeah, just let it go, right? Just don't even pay attention to it. So like in looking at this listing, like, just for somebody watching this now or watching it back on YouTube, like why is this a brand? Like, why would you say that this is a brand where I'm like, wow, this is like, a hot lead. I should definitely approach them.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that don't make sense. I mean, the biggest thing is we've got this string of letters and numbers, in the title, which maybe it's a part number. I don't know. Either way, it's not contributing to any sort of keyword search SEO. You've got terribly optimized like pictures, no sort of anything that's going to get a consumer to convert on it. No lifestyle, no infographics. We haven't even scrolled down yet necessarily, but a ton of sellers. I would assume the price is all over the place, kind of. Yeah. So,
I mean, it's not as bad as you would think for 27 sellers.
Yeah, it's not as bad. I mean, this would also be like one of those things where I'm looking at it from the perspective of like, do they even know that Amazon's selling the product? Because it's very possible they don't.
Right. Yeah. Maybe Amazon's getting it from a distributor or something.
Yeah, which is a more and more common problem that I find the more brands I talk to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, they just like they have nothing. They have, this is where A+ content would go.
Right.
And if you're watching, you don't know what A+ content is. It's just real high quality images that can help showcase the product, increase sales, increase conversions, and really speak to the customer a little bit more rather than, just a copy and paste of the title in the description here. So they're lacking and missing everything, but they obviously have a lot of brand equity because they're selling a lot of product, and this is just one listing that's got a 3-digit rank in its category, industrial and scientific. So it's definitely moving.
Yeah, speaking of reaching out to brands and providing value and everything, a question in here says, how did you handle? You'd be great for answering this one. How did you handle calls in the beginning when you didn't have the skill set to really add this value and think about these things that we're saying now? Like if you're a new seller, how do you handle that from your first to your 100th call or whatever it might be?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, you don't have all the know-how or the confidence or the case studies in the beginning. Maybe you don't even have any products in your inventory, right? Or you have some Nike socks and, you're looking to get into wholesale and all you got is, OA and RA products, which is fine. Like that's where we were, years ago. But to that beginner who's just trying to segue into wholesale or just start wholesale, it all comes down to one, I think something you say all the time, which is, working in your playing field, and not swinging for the fences in terms of, stop trying to close the account that's selling 20,000 units a month, because one, it's out of your field. Even if you get it, you probably couldn't afford it. And two, you're going to have to get through a lot of red tape at the company. There's going to be, more people to get on the phone with, more customer service reps, and you're going to get bounced around. The other thing is just simply less is more. Like at the end of the day, just call the brand up or the distributor or whomever and tell them you're interested in opening a wholesale account. All right. I was just having this conversation with someone. It's like, just tell them you're interested in opening a wholesale account and, see where the rest of it goes. Ask questions that help them, that's make them start opening up. And before you know it, they're telling you, their life story. And now you're in a position to maybe provide some points of value.
Yeah. The expression that I always use is punching above your weight class. You're not going to punch above your weight class. Like you're not going
to. You were cutting out there.
No, I said the expression that I use is punching above your weight class. Like you're not going to, like if it's any consolation to being a new seller, like you're just not going to close the account that you don't have the skill set to close. And like, that's okay. That's all right. As you grow and your skill set gets better, you'll close higher and higher caliber accounts. But at the beginning, like don't put too much pressure on yourself. If you don't have the skill set to close the account, you're not going to close it. It's just learning by doing. That's basically the way to approach it.
Yeah. And just, and just for his follow-up question there, PHL, any other ways to close accounts while you're learning the game? It's just, you tell them you're interested in opening a wholesale account. Give them your location, where you're based out of, show them some legitimacy, show them you're an e-commerce company. You're not just looking to sell their products on Amazon. Just look to be a serious seller, to buy their products, to stock their products, right? All these different buzzwords that show that you're serious, because a lot of other Amazon sellers are not. And then I think that's like kind of level one. Level one is like transactional. All right, if you can beat out other sellers on a transactional level, show them some sort of legitimacy, now you've moved to level one. Level two is like, all right, now you're actually going to show them strategy and show them how to deal with Amazon in a more positive way that helps their brand, helps their sales grow. So those are the primary approaches that we're using.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great way of putting it. Is just like we said, it's learning by doing. Like there's no course, there's no, like nothing is going to give you. You might get fast tracked and get ahead by learning from people that know more than you, have done it more, and can provide you with tips. But at the end of the day, like you have to put in the work. The business model doesn't work unless you do. Like we say that all the time. So your expectations should be centered around your willingness to put in the work. But if you do, I mean, as we know, I mean, you can make tons and tons of money in this business model, but it's all related to your effort.
Yeah. And it gets to a point where it's like, it's, you know, it's fun because you're getting so good at the process. It's like, bing, you know, there's another sales call closed. Bing, there's another one. You know what I mean? And it's just like once that snowball starts gaining momentum, it's like, you know, really rapidly moving. And I think that's different. That's the part that's different about this from other business models on Amazon. You know, the ability to compound something so fast and really, you know, you're almost combining like the benefits of all the business models on Amazon. You know, I don't know if like you ever think about that. It's like you're getting the benefits of private label in the sense of you know, you're doing the brand building, the SEO, the content. You're helping actually grow the brand from a marketing and sales perspective. But you're also selling somebody else's name brand product. So in that sense, it's like arbitrage. You know,
you don't have the R&D, which is
you don't have the R&D, you don't have the marketing and all the work that goes into building a brand.
Yeah, exactly. And you're coming in and positioning yourself as an expert in your field. Like, I mean, I today, like, you know, I try to use examples, real life examples that brands will understand because they don't understand Amazon. So I try and kind of relate it to something that they get. And actually on a call today, I said that, you know, we were dealing with an account that was a ton of industry specific brick and mortar. I think it was like a tool supply, you know, brand or something. And it was tons of tool companies. And I explained it to the person on the phone who was a decision maker, as, you know, it's like hiring a contractor to be your personal chef. Like they might know how to cook, but they're not going to be good at it. You know, they're better off building a house, right? And so it's like, in the sense of, I mean, they understand it. I use like a contractor as an example, but it's positioning yourself as a industry specific Amazon seller has just as much weight to it as an industry specific brick and mortar, because you are positioning yourself as an expert in the field. And I said on the phone to this person, I said that, you know, I don't know if you would have taken this approach. I said, you know, I'll be honest with you. I said, I have no idea how to use your product. I said, I couldn't figure it out. I said but I said, what I do know is how to market it, how to list it, how to sell it, and how to do that better than any of the other sellers that are on the listing. And this started out as absolutely not, we want industry specific brick and mortar, you know, and it transitioned slowly into that. And you learn how to do that over time, as you know, obviously. You learn how to pivot those conversations into, okay, like we'll talk, you know?
Yeah. Being upfront and transparent about what you're doing and selling on Amazon is an absolute power move. Like it's really just, you know, coming in there and being, because everybody tries to hide it, you know, like so many people try to hide it in this cold outreach process. And it's like, and we were there too. I think you have to hide it because of the lack of confidence and experience a lot of times.
And you kind of like, brands will stop caring after a while. Like it's, you know, how often it is that we're on the phone with the company and it starts out as like, yeah, well, we sell through a couple different channels, this and that. And then it's like, let me ask you about Amazon. And then by the end of the conversation, they have completely forgotten that you said that you know. So, I mean, it's about where the focus is.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a trigger word, though. That's the problem. It's like a trigger word for a brand. And so once you can get over that initial like fear factor.
Yeah. You still there? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's it's a trigger word. Like that, exactly what you said. It's such a trigger word because a lot of these brands will just write that off.
Or did I just stop talking in the middle of a sentence or something? I think it did it. I was gonna say, I think I have a habit of doing that, and I'm just like, and I just trail off. The brain just stops working sometimes.
Yeah, no, you're good. You just cut out for a moment.
Gotcha.
but that's the thing. It's a trigger word. It's about getting over the hump of
Yeah.
resistance, and a lot of people can't. Like, I mean, let's face it. Once it gets hard, that's where people quit. That's why a lot of people don't succeed in this business model, because it is comes with a bit of challenge. But what's amazing to me is like the amount of people that try to reach out to brands and just um, you know, throw money at them and then like almost get offended when the brand is like, we don't want to work with you. Like they get mad at them and they get offended. But it's like,
It's common though
if you
too.
do that, yeah, if you get mad and like, it just shows such a lack of emotional intelligence in
Right.
doing cold outreach.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. And you also like you can't show conviction through money. That's like an intangible thing that I and still actually right now, even while we're on this stream, I today my outreach today. I mean, you've had these days too, where like you're practically like yelling on the phone. Like you're not yelling at the brands, but like you are talking with such conviction and passion and like that. I mean, I'm kind of lost my voice a little bit today, but it's like that's the stuff that it's almost you don't going back to the other question before. You don't need to necessarily be 100% an expert in all of these things. You just have to know more than the person you're talking to and have the passion, conviction, and abilities to outsource and execute on the things that you're saying. You don't have to know how to do all of them.
Yeah. It's sales. Like that's all, you think about a car salesman, or you think about, anybody selling you like on a stock or something. It's all sales. That's what it comes down to. If you're not passionate, meaning like you got to be the guy that wants to work for them, that wants to level them up. And if you're not passionate and you're not convicting about it, they're not gonna, it's like they're getting inundated with a lot of inquiries. So like you got to stand out somehow.
If you slap that hood of that car hard enough, man, I'm buying it. Harder you
Exactly.
slap the
Yeah.
hood of that car.
Even with distributors, it's the same
Yeah.
deal. Like not all distributors just open up an account to anybody. But if you're, convicted enough and you show, legitimacy that, hey, you're a serious buyer with a distributor, like they'll open you up and that'll be, an account that's a little bit more selective with the distributor, so it's like,
Yeah, I mean, it's almost good that we talk about doing the bare minimum puts you ahead of 90%. Like that's an industry that I'd want to be in because I don't want to be in an industry where every single person that's competing is an expert. Like it'd make it a lot more difficult. And that like if you're just considering if you're an RA or an OA seller or something, you're just considering getting into wholesale, it's two sides of the coin, right? Like you're not going to succeed in it if you're not willing to put in the effort and the work. But on the flip side, if you are, there are not, a lot of sellers in the grand scheme of all the accounts on Amazon that are doing that sort of thing. So if you're willing to do that, you're gonna succeed. You're in an industry that's it's competitive, but it's also non-competitive when it comes to skill set, I guess would be the right word.
mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, we got a question here on YouTube from Clutch. If I don't have an established account with a lot of sales, how do I start showing proof that I'm serious when reaching out to suppliers? Answer that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of throw the question, back at you, Brad, as far as like, how many times when we started did people really question like our sales? I don't think that it's that much of a relevant thing. Like it's relevant to you and I because we're a seller, but I think from a brand's perspective, I don't know how relevant that is. They don't really know if you are started yesterday or if you've been selling on Amazon for 10 years. They really don't know. All they know is their interaction with you and the relationship that you've built with them. I mean, that's my viewpoint on it. I don't know how you feel.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's they're not focused on I don't think we've like until we build like a long-term standing relationship with a brand, like we've never been asked our sales volume. It's like maybe you tell a brand that you're working with, for several years, yeah, hey, here's our growth, here's our projections, but it's like, I mean, and I understand it from a new seller's perspective in that, wanting to have sales on your Amazon account, more so wanting to have inventory, right? I can see that argument a little bit more because if you direct them to the store, perhaps you want to show them some inventory, but even that's not a huge deal if you don't have any inventory. Put it this way, if God forbid, our Amazon account went to zero, I mean, it would probably take us pretty quickly to build everything back up again because even though we don't have like anything to show these brands, we're still going to do the same thing we're doing now, you know,
Right.
because we're convicting, we're showing legitimacy, we're providing value, we're being serious about purchasing. You know what I mean? And when you make that the focus and their brand the focus rather than you, they don't care about you. I'm sorry, but they don't. Like they don't know who you are. They don't. They don't know anything about you. There's thousands of yous reaching out to them. So the thing that's going to make you stand out is not putting any sort of emphasis on what you're doing in your sales. It's rather putting the emphasis on them, asking them questions, definitely show them legitimacy, right? Tell them where you're located. Tell them, you are interested in stocking their products, not drop shipping. Show those forms of legitimacy. But at the end of the day, if you make the focus about them and asking them questions, that's what's going to help, fast track that account with the brand.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Like you said, making the focus about them. That's a perfect way of saying it. Um, Showing them proof that you're serious, as far as like how the question was phrased, is all related to your interaction with them, not necessarily your volume or your store or anything like that. The only time that we've really been asked that type of thing is when it's a large account and the seller of the product is concerned about us being able to facilitate the purchase volume of the brand or
Yep.
the product, which as a new seller, you're not going to be dealing with that.
No, no, you're probably not. Yeah, and there's a question here from Blue Academy. How often do you encounter low hanging fruit as opposed to accounts that are harder to close?
I think it depends on the day. I really do. I mean, I feel like there's some days where it's like you're getting accounts left and right that are just, all right, go ahead. You know what I mean? When we don't get too excited about those, for the most part,
But
it's hard to.
low hanging fruit. What was that?
I know I have a terrible answer for this. So I don't know. You can answer it because I don't.
No, I was just going to say, like, low hanging fruit might be low hanging fruit at face value, meaning they'll
Yes.
give you the
Yeah.
account, but you could potentially convert that down the road into an exclusive agreement because
Mm-hmm.
they don't, if they're giving you an account, they're giving the next guy an account. So,
Right.
you can potentially introduce these ideas to them and explain to them, hey, like, you don't want, this is why you don't want to be taking all these sellers on your listing, because it
Yeah.
damages your brand. It damages the price. They don't have any vested interest in the brand, so there's the low hanging fruit could potentially be the exclusive, down the road.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, it's all like how how you convert that. I think has to do with your relationship as well. I mean, the more you sell a product and the more you have it in your inventory, the more history you have. And that's why we talk about, like, yes, you don't want to think transactionally, but sometimes you just have to put forward a transaction to make a relationship start. Because even if it's a low hanging fruit account that is unprofitable, but you see the potential for selective or exclusive agreement down the line, making that initial purchase commitment sometimes goes a lot farther than trying to pitch the brand that's a low hanging brand that offers an account to anyone, because if they're doing that, they don't care. So,
Yep, exactly.
but I don't know. I feel like kind of, my answer is horrible for this, but I feel like it really depends. Like I feel like there's days where it's nothing but like you're going up against really tough accounts and tough, brand owners, and then there's days where we'll get 4 in a row that are like price list, price list, price list. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah, it's a
depends.
mixed bag. That's why it's all about contacting in volume. As a beginner, 100 companies a week at least. Um, so, that's it. I mean, that's at the end of the day what it comes down to. If you guys have any last minute questions, throw them in the chat. If you are watching on YouTube, it actually really does help out the videos when you hit the like button. So if you are watching, go ahead and hit that like button, help out the channel. And if you have any other questions, drop them on the comment section because we'll answer them. We answer all the comments in a timely manner.
Yeah, and we'll be
Any
back
other?
on a regular schedule of
Yeah.
Wednesday coming up this next week, and same thing, live every Wednesday, Q&A, sourcing, and everything of that nature. And so if you're checking out the content, we appreciate you. And we actually get this last question here: email first or call? What do you think?
I mean, I think in the beginning, probably call just so you can get the reps in. But as
Yeah.
you grow, it's very time consuming to do that. So as you grow, you might want to gauge interest first with an email.
Right, and you can filter the brand too. You can filter the product and determine if it's a higher caliber, you want to call. If it's a lower caliber that you don't really care a whole lot about, you might want to email it first.
Yep, exactly. All right. Well, thanks for watching, everyone, and we will see you live every Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern time.
All right, we'll see you next week.